And if you say Mike Cooper's not that kind of player, there's no intent. I don't think you'd say that about Watts. I think he gave a penalty within about 15 seconds of coming on the pitch, I think. So
he was, I think he was one of the players whose emotions wasn't in the right place, maybe in the first half of this game when he came on for his first stint. And actually, in all normal circumstances, when Cass are coming back into a game and need points, they wouldn't be taking him off. But he did, didn't he? Powell took him off after that incident and brought, I think, George Griffin back on, which is a player who's not going to make a difference for you, you would think. So in the same way that Watts can, but he had to kind of protect the other side of it, which is we don't want to lose a man. And in the end, it didn't really matter, I suppose. But real shame for Castleford supporters and for Darryl Powell and Michael Shenton and Grant Millington and those kind of people that just they didn't get their initial approach at the start of this game right. I thought that was a great fan review we had in from Always in Our Shadow with Liam Moore letting Wire kick off the 40 minutes early. I feel for them a bit, but at the same time, this is kind of why there's differences between Leeds, Wigan, St Helens versus clubs like Castleford that might be really entertaining to watch, but come crunch time, have letdowns.
Yeah, and you could see why that then breeds some concern in Warrington fans for what lies ahead. Yeah,
and I'll let you have the final word on it, Neil. Like, sort of two things from me. One, negative side, what sort of level of concern do you have? And then the other positive side, what was your highlight moment of this match?
I'm not convinced on Powell to be able to finish a job that we need to do at Warrington. I think if we do go on and win the grand final this year and finally get that monkey off our back, I think Powell could be a revelation next year because I think he'll expand our style of play. And I think with that off our backs, I actually think there's probably less pressure on him at that point. And less pressure around the club. And I think that could be transformative for us. If we don't win it and the pressure is on, I'm not convinced that he'll get us over the line, but hopefully we'll see something a bit more entertaining and exciting than what we've seen under Price. That said, I think we scored some great tries in this game. I think Ashton's first for me was probably the highlight. Early doors in the match to be breaking like we did. Curry, I think, was the first man on. Mamo was involved once or twice. And then Ashton finishing off. I think that set us up very well in that first half and was probably the highlight for me.
Yeah, it was a great try. Okay, let's move on to Friday night's TV game. What I would say before we do this one is that I realised at lunchtime today there must have been some sort of issue with the application we used to send out the scheduled tweets for the matches to get in your fan reviews, because all of Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays ones went out on Twitter and Facebook at this morning. So, apologies if people missed the opportunity to get their fan views in on these games after the Thursday night game. But yeah, we still got some in on some of the games. So obviously some hardy souls who had the link saved already managed to get through to us. So yeah, we'll move on to Leeds versus Hull KR, the Robins. It was Leeds 36, Hull KR 12 after being 24-6 to Leeds at halftime. So again, another significant game, but seemed over by half-time. 13,106 were there. Chris Kendall was the referee. We have incomplete team stats because Bodine Thompson doesn't exist. But individually, Ash Handley with a try, 180 metres and 3 clean breaks. Luke Briscoe, 124 metres. Harry Newman, 109 metres. Cam Smith, 1 try assist, 48 tackles, 12 marker tackles in that, and 111 metres. So he went both ways. For the losing Robins, Ben Crooks 139 metres, Jimmy the Kind Horse 132 metres, 4 successful offloads. Matty Staunton, who's impressed me in the run into this season, 46 tackles and 114 metres for a both ways performance. And Kane Linnett 103 metres. A couple of fan views in. Do you want to give us the first of them, Neil?
Yeah, Leighton Rhino says was 50-50 to make the 180-mile journey / hotel or watch on telly. So glad I went. South Stand was bouncing and a big crowd back. Big fat Rob Louis was great, and he's a real 2-in-1 player now. I don't know what that means. Is it because he's that big, or he's a real 2-in-1 player?
I think
anyway,
he's going to go on to explain it.
I need to carry on reading.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. He controls the game. He controls the game like a half, but can carry and tackle like a prop. I bought the grand final tickets for me and her indoors, thinking we'd be wearing berets and chanting in French after this game. Who knows? # win it from fifth again.
And Tom Andrews said, made it easy for them with errors galore, despite working hard. Can't imagine it's a game Crooksy wants to see back. I thought Lewis worked hard and likely secured his spot next to Abdul next season. Seems we are losing bodies all over the park at the worst time, but I'm sure we'll give it a good shot next week. How nice is it to have a next week? Winky face. So we did get views in from both sides of the fence in this match. I managed to catch about 10 minutes of it live when I needed to nip back to my room for something during the night festivities of the wedding I was at. But I did catch up on this game on Sunday afternoon, all but the last 10 minutes. I didn't bother watching after the Hanley try. I thought, why am I still watching it? I've got other stuff to watch. But yeah. Did you catch this one? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I did. I thought in some ways the previous night's result didn't help, I think, with this game. I mean, big incentive, I guess, because you'd much rather go to Wigan than go to Warrington. So I guess both teams wanted to win because of that. But yeah, I mean, they were both guaranteed their place. Joking aside, I mean, does it really matter whether you finish 5th or 6th? It's not actually any difference in terms of your route through to the final. So, I kind of felt that showed a little bit. It was quite an open, loose type feeling game, I think. Had some decent play, and I guess you kind of come to expect that a little bit from Rovers now. They're what are we supposed to call them now? I kind of only half saw this branding piece.
They're the Robins.
Am I not allowed to call them Rovers anymore?
Apparently, Rovers is kind of a part of their history, but not a part of their current branding. So it's Hull KR or Robins apparently, but we're still going to call them Rovers, aren't we?
It's gonna. Yeah,
it doesn't matter to us. Yeah. We're just fans talking about it. No one's going to come knocking on our door saying you're not fitting in with the branding message.
That's true. So I mean, well, their brand at the moment is that they're an open, expansive style of team, and I think they kind of brought that into this game. But then it all got a bit loose and a bit scrappy at different times, and I think that was probably a reflection of the fact that this game didn't quite matter so much. I think it is a bit worrying for Rovers. I said I didn't want to overstate this given they're playing us next week, but losing players at this time isn't good, and maybe some of the performances from a couple. I mean, Crooks was shocking in this actually, but Lewis was good. I thought he showed up really well. Have I seen enough from Lee to think they're going to be a serious threat? We'll kind of come on maybe when we talk about the guesses.
Yeah.
I don't take a great deal of confidence from this particular game that suggests that they're going to be that big a threat, but it had a bit of an end of season feel to it, I felt, this match.
Yeah, it was a bit messy, wasn't it? For especially for Hull KR. I thought Leeds were actually really quite good with the ball in the first half. Better than where they've generally been this season. They've had one or two games where it's fired, and this was one of those games. Maybe that Myler try on the stroke of half time was the pick of the scores, but there was some good play in some of the other scores, maybe not in the final plays, but in the build-up. But there was one where Hanley had the break down the outside with Leeming, but then Handley got tackled, but they shifted the ball out quite quickly, and I think it was Tom Holroyd went in to score. He's impressing me. He's, I think he's really progressed in the last sort of when they've been missing Aledzki and the other one, Zany Winehouse. When they've been missing those guys recently, I think Tom Holroyd's really stepped up and said, "I'm a first teamer." So yeah, they were better. They were way better than Hull KR were in the game as a general, but in the first half in particular. So the scoreline isn't like the scoreline is a very accurate reflection of what I saw of this match, really.
Yeah.
And the biggest, maybe the biggest factor of it, obviously, we talked a bit about Hall being injured. I'm not sure if there's any way back in for him next week. I don't know. Certainly, there's no way back in for Greg Minikin, who picked up an injury too. So it kind of looks like Ben Crooks and Jimmy Kinehorst are going to be the options there, and that's not. Crooks is okay, but is he good enough at this stage of the season in these types of fixtures? I think there's certainly some question marks about that after the last month of performances. But and Kinehorst on the wing, not convinced. The other thing though is Matt Parcell. That pec injury.
Yeah,
you don't see players do something to their pec and play the next week very regularly, do you? It's not one you can really strap up again.
Nah, I think he's done, and it's one of them where I think you saw it a little bit with McShane at the weekend. If he plays, how effective will he be?
Yeah,
he's going to be tentative in tackles with that kind of. He's going to limit his ability to kind of get a proper hold and grab. He's going to probably hurt he can dose up and painkiller and stuff, can't he? But he's probably still going to hurt when he's passing. So yeah, I don't fancy he'll be effective if he plays. And that's a big impact because he's been great for them this year.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Jez Litton has been impressive in patches too, but it's like the supporting act, not as the the headline star that Parcell has been this year. He's been as good as he was back in, was it the 2017 season at Leeds where he was outstanding. So I like Tom was saying, they're kind of picking up, losing bodies at the wrong time. But we'll see how that shapes up, and I think both sides will want to be a little bit better next week because the games you'd think are going to be a little bit more serious than this one was.
Leeds get a couple back though, by all accounts.
Aledzki
and Tetevano both come into the mix, which helps because you say about Thompson not being in the stats. When I saw the Leeds team and I saw Thompson, I was scratching my head thinking, who is he? And then I remembered that he'd played in the grand final for us.
Yeah.
And it was Bodie and Thompson. It took me a while for the penny to drop. I think he was thinking of a prop. That's what quickly. That's my excuse anyway. But yeah, I said I'll get a couple back. Leeming went off with his hand in ice, which they need him. He was great, I thought. He was in the 50-odd minutes he was on. I think Reece Martin getting man of the match was probably the right shout, but I thought Leeming possibly had the biggest impact on the game in that spell when he was on.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much nailed on that Leeming will be player of the season and Morgan Gannon will be young player of the season when Leeds do their awards.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if it went any other way, the way they played. But Matt Pryor's been quite a consistent performer. He grabbed a try again in this one, and he's an important part for them. I think, yeah, if you drop Bodie and Thompson out and put Mikulecki in, and maybe drop Conrad Hurrell off the bench and slip Tetevano in, you're looking at a much more formidable pack. And you're sort of thinking there's a lot of go forward there. So we'll see if they're fit enough to deliver.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about the other games, but probably just pass a little short comment on them, really. First one, bit of a surprise when you saw the result, not so much when you saw the lineups, but it was Salford versus St Helens. 5,130 were there, which for Salford isn't a bad crowd. Marcus Griffiths was the referee. It was 14-10 to St Helens at halftime, but it did not finish that way. It finished 28-14 to Salford. Meters were close.